Good evening, everyone. Lovely to see you all here, and welcome to another episode of the Trisscast. Hope you are all doing absolutely wonderful today. Um, I am not as prepared right now as I would wish I was. Mostly I don't have my topic list prepared. Um, but I have a few topics. I do have a few topics I want to talk about. So um, um, let's just kind of go through all the streams the past week. Um, yeah, kind of reflect on all of that. Will probably be first, and I have a topic I've been wanting to talk about for a while on stream. Um, I kind of talked about it a little bit last week, but I want to bring back this week, and I really want to go in depth because it's a topic I really, really like. Um, and I'm gonna talk a bit about the upcoming week in terms of streaming. It's a little bit of a sparse topic list, but I'm guessing um, kind of more of an estimation, but I have a feeling that I'll probably come up with something random out of chat to fit it in with. Um, so, with that said, let's start going through kind of the past week of streaming. Um, those who have been paying attention to the YouTube channel as well notice that I didn't get to do any of the clips of last week's stream where I had massive friend of the channel, Biggest Junior on. And the reason for that is mostly just like I have executive dysfunction. I need to make sure I have my phone muted. I have executive dysfunction mostly because of autism, ADHD, anxiety disorders. I do not live in a very safe house at the moment. So the way I got myself into editing the first episode of the Trisscast is I did like half of my editing beforehand. So like I did now, I'm going to talk about this topic. So I started the recording. Um, and while it's streaming, I also have a recording running now that I will cut once I'm done with this week, with this section. Um, and then once I have all of my segments filmed, um, I will go into I would then kind of go through all of them, see which ones do I want to keep, which ones do I want to throw out, and then see do I want to cut them together? Do I just want to take that clip as a whole? Do I want to cut into it? I try and edit as little as possible on one hand in order to save myself time, um, but I also just want to keep context. I want to keep that contained. Um, so um, that's kind of how it was really difficult to cut a segment while I have a guest on, mostly because, and I kind of knew this about Anik, about Biggest Junior, which is why I invited them on, why I wanted them to be a guest on the Trisscast. I can talk with them very well. And I knew I would be able to keep the conversation going for as long as we had to. Um, and it was a great conversation, I feel. I really enjoyed it. The downside of it was very hard for me to turn that into I couldn't like I didn't have like clear cutoff points for my videos. So I couldn't really cut it that easily. And I would need to scrub through the entire stream. And like I mentioned, executive dysfunction. I had the project open a bunch, and I just looked at it, and I just went, I don't think I'm capable of doing this. Um, so that's kind of my expectation for the coming while. I will try and get the solo streams edited, and the ones where I have a stream guest on, which we'll try and do Um, I'll probably try and turn that into once a month. Originally, I was going to do it every other week. I try and do them a little bit less with the expectation of those I won't be able to edit and I will work on something else in those weeks. Um, the world building or the art stream from Rosette went really well. Um, I was really proud of that stream, mostly just because of Rosa makes great art. Um, and I really liked that one, how it turned out. It is on YouTube, but I think I forgot to make it public. Yeah, I need to work on getting that stuff. I need to work on doing that more punctually. The same goes for the world building stream. I loved how it went. Very, very happy with it. Got a lot of stuff done. Um, it was a lot of fun. It took me a while to figure out the format. What am I doing with this? But I really enjoyed doing it. Um, and I would love having more people join for those in the future. I want to keep doing them. I kind of have a plan of where am I going to start next week. So the real difficulty with starting doing a world building stream is right, we have a world. What do we do now? What details do we work in? What do we write? Um, in what order do we do it all? And it became very. I had so many options, it overwhelmed a little bit. I didn't really know what to do. I didn't know in what order to do it. Um, so kind of as a result, I ended up, but I ended up eventually like figuring out, right, this is how I want to do it. This is where I want to make um, the articles I wanted to write, the characters I wanted to focus on. And now I have a little bit of groundwork laid out. And I now have specific points where I can go, right, this is next. This is the next character I need to write out. I need to write the ways it ties in. I need to write the cities. I need to write all of, the extra details that kind of tie into it. And I think with that, I can lay out all the basics I need um, in order to, if I can lay out all those basics, I can get a grasp on what are the um, I can lay out all the basics, and then I have the very basics of my world, and then we can start looking at what can we build in the specifics. Can we turn that into a campaign notes? If I have it, why? If I have enough stuff prepared, can I turn that into lore documents that I can give to players? Can I look into making that a campaign potentially for streams? Who knows? We will see. Either way, I'm super excited to figure all of that stuff out. Um, but yeah, that's been kind of what's been going on the past week. I also had a civilization stream yesterday. I felt like shit. Honestly, I felt like shit yesterday. I had to wake up super early in the morning, and I had to go to a different city to have an intake for an housing organization that I want to try and get into. I need to move out of the place I'm in currently, and there was a housing org that was somewhat loosely related. So I kind of had a foot in the door that would make getting in there a little bit easier. Um, so I had to go for an intake there, and I think I got like 4 hours of sleep before I went there, and I was just exhausted the entire conversation. I don't think anybody knows, but I was just so damn exhausted. And then I got home, and like the very first thing I did was sleep more, and it still wasn't enough. And then I had to stream, and my sleep schedule was still just fucked. Um, but yeah, then I had to stream, and the run just didn't go well. Um, I I, I say run. It's more just like a challenge game. I gave myself a challenge, and I wanted to see how well I could do it. Um, so I started there with Alexander for the civilization because like the challenge one is play as every single leader in Civilization 5 and win them one by one in alphabetical order. So the second one was Alexander the Great of Greece, technically of Macedon, but the game counts it as Greece. Um, And I just had so much bad luck. The first run, everywhere were barbarians, and they were all very aggressively gunning for me. So I just spent like the entire stream was me just dealing with let's fuck up the entire stream was just me like the barbarians ganging up on me and me having to like constantly keep defenses up. Um, and I didn't enjoy it. I was just feeling like shit the entire time. So eventually I reset because I felt like I was losing too much stuff to it. The strategy I had planned during the game just completely fell through. Um, and I decided let's restart, re-roll, get a new game, turn barbarians off, just don't want to deal with them. And so I did. I started a new game, played with our barbarians, and early game it went really well. And I thought it would be the funniest to just go for city spam because that's what AI Alexander does in the game. Um, Welcome, B. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Um, but yeah, that's what Alexander does. Alexander just spams out settlers and builds cities everywhere. So I figured that would be funny to do, kind of build this large sprawling empire. And like it was a fun idea, but I just was not capable of sustaining it, and then just like incur the massive penalties of low happiness. And it's like I should have realized, like I fucked up. I should have known not to dip into low happiness constantly. Um, but it still kind of ruined the game for me, or the run for me. Excuse me. Sorry, I had to sneeze. Quickly muted the mic. But yeah, it ruined the run for me. Um, and I felt so. I was tired. I didn't want to be there anymore. And I also kind of figured like, what's the most fun for me in streaming is the chat interactivity. And like, I'm aware that a lot of people tend to lurk when they're watching these streams, so I try and stay talking even without chat interactivity, just to provide entertainment. Um, but what's fun about, for me, the fun in streaming rather than just playing the game yourself is interacting with the people in chat. And with Civilization, I really noticed it was really hard to get people talking. Um, it might have also just been like a bad day, but I just felt so drained. I just decided, yeah, I'm turning this off. I'm not gonna. It was 3 hours at that point, and I was just done. Um, so that is me gonna say that I'm not gonna. Don't expect me to return to Civilization soon. Um, if I maybe in the future I'll feel a bit more confident about playing such a game on stream. Um, and like I had a bunch of suggestions like pre-preparing a map or something like that, but I just feel like in general it isn't as fun a game to stream as I originally thought. Um, it's a little bit slower than like in my head when I look back at Civilization campaigns I've played. Um, it all happens a lot quicker in my head. But when I'm actually playing it, it takes minutes between something interesting happening, and I need to keep it interesting between all of that. And it was it was just so hard to keep interesting. Um, so I don't expect to stream it for at least quite a while. However, I do already have a game I want to substitute into that slot, which is what I will talk to later. I'm gonna say now because it is like one of the topic lists. It's not Dragon Age 2. I will return to Dragon Age eventually, including Dragon Age 2, but not yet. Probably either later in 2021 or early 2020, 2022. I'm struggling to talk today. That's probably when I will return to the Dragon Age series. Unless Dragon Age 4 comes out, I actually have no idea when that will be. I'm presuming late 2022 at the earliest at this point. just me going off of expectations there, but um, I'm the main reason why I don't want to return to it yet is I just finished it and I want to give it some time. Um, and then like once I've had some big things happening, I wanna make it like a proper challenge one. And like I will get guides before and I will plan things out and I will treat it. It won't be a speed run in the sense that I won't focus on getting it done as quickly as possible, but I will like route it out and figure out like how I can do it um you know build the strongest build I can, go against the toughest enemies, kind of a situation like that. Whereas when I last played it on stream, Dragon Age 2 worked really well on stream, but then I was really focusing just primarily on I'm experiencing the game live. Um, and it's a great game to experience, but I want to try it out on high difficulty and like just make it as hard for me as I can and like build the most ridiculous and OP build I can. And I think that's gonna be fun for a stream. That sounds like fun to me. That sounds like some good shenanigans. And with Dragon Age Inquisition, it was my I had played it before, but I didn't reach as far as I did on stream. So a lot of it was really new for me, really new story, stuff that I just wanted to see for my own curiosity. And that I think that's kind of ruined it. Because I was kind of balancing between role playing the game and between playing it in streamer mode. With streamer mode being my way of saying like I wanted to do the things that I thought would be fun for the stream. I wanted to do the more entertaining stuff, and it's hard to do both the really narrative role-playish focus and the more stream-based focus because there's like a pacing difference. Um, and I really struggled up against that. And I think when I'm gonna play it a bunch off stream, more one to get more familiar with the game, and two to like really dive into the narrative for my own fun and my own pace. Um, and then when I end up returning to it, it will be in a challenge format, so high difficulty. See if I can snap some trials on, try and get some achievements for challenges maybe, and use that. And then like again build it maximized, but then I won't go for a bunch of cutscenes. I won't focus so much on side quests. Um, I'll probably base the side quest off of, oh, that's an item I really want. I'm gonna get that item now, um, and just kind of route my. Again, I'm gonna route it and figure out like how do I want to run this. How do I want to run this challenge? Um, and I think that's gonna make it a little bit more fun. Um, so um that's probably when I end up returning to Dragon Age. But no, I will talk in the final section, the upcoming week section. I will go a little bit more in depth about what game I'm gonna play because I think I'm gonna try and keep these Trisscasts to 2 to 3 hours maximum. 3 hours is really the max. Like I need to stretch it out to get to three. But expect that this would take about 2 hours. And after that, I'm gonna play the mystery game. Um, I will also play that game every Friday. If Rosa is unable to do art streams, I will do it as well. And just every Saturday after the Trisscast, I will put it on as well. Um, and it has a bunch of challenges we're gonna do. It has a lot of fun. It's gonna be great. I think people will enjoy it. Um, but I'm gonna wait with revealing what it is until the end of the Trisscast. So if you are curious, stick around. It's gonna be great. But yeah, that has kind of been like what I've been busy with in the past week. Um, and it's been kind of up and down, kind of dealing with some energy issues. I'm really hyped for when I will eventually get my own place. Because as soon as that happens, if I'm capable of it, I'm gonna stream so much more. It's gonna take a while for me to arrange. Like I said, I had that intake yesterday. No idea when they'll actually have room, but if I can get in there and I can just have my own place, have my own kitchen, my own living room, my own place to put my PC, um, I'm going to feel so much better energy wise. I'm gonna get so much more streaming in. Um, and that's hopefully that's gonna be great. But yeah, that was the kind of past week. Also, hello Adam, how are you doing today? Hope you are doing wonderful. Yeah, I really hope I will feel much better with it. It's like living in a shared home is, I noticed, really not good for me. I have way too much social anxiety and such. Like, I can live with other people perfectly fine. The issue is, like, the model of shared home this is, because I don't know most of these other people and they are constantly swapping in and out. And everybody's here for different reasons, which means that we all have a difference in what we really need socially and in terms of like house rules. So a lot of the needs that I have just cannot be met here. Um, so, but that hopefully that will be very well soon. Um, no idea how long that's gonna take, but that's kind of for the future. And good. I'm glad to hear you're doing good. Um, but yeah, let me go into. So the next topic, Dragon Age 2, I've kind of written it on here because like I wanted to turn this into a video. And one of the key reasons that I wanted to do the Trisscast was to turn video ideas into, or, video essays that I wanted to make and that I struggled with because of my executive dysfunction. Turn those instead, like just ramble about the topic live on stream because I'm good at bullshitting. I can bullshit for a few hours if I really need to. The only real limitation I have is eventually I'll run out of breath. But aside from that, because I can't really make a script, I can't really edit it, I just run into a point where my energy is so drained. I need to, if I want to make a video, I need to come up with the idea um, and do everything in no more than 2 days. That's really the limit I have. But by kind of doing this format, I'm, now I'm doing the recording and live on stream, and all the editing for it takes less than a day, and I can do sometime when I actually have the energy for it. So, one of the topics that I really wanted to talk about is why Dragon Age 2 is the best Dragon Age game in the series. And for those who aren't very familiar with Dragon Age, let me tell you, that is a hot take. That's a spicy take. Um, but it's one I very genuinely hold. I There is like a level of, yeah, I know it's not, a lot of people say something like, yeah, I know it's not perfect, but you can see past its flaws or stuff like that. No, genuinely, this is the most enjoyable game in the series. And I'm tired of pretending it isn't. Um, a lot of that is based on subjective opinion. I know this. I acknowledge that. I know I'm not perfect. I have my biases. But so does everyone else. And I'm so fucking tired of watching like videos by like reviews and everything on the franchise and discussions on the franchise where they just put down Dragon Age 2 really quickly because like at a certain point, it just feels like a quick punchline. A large part of me wants like, because like I've seen really serious critique where I realize like, yeah, that's actually like to you, that's probably those subjective aspects that I don't care as much about probably are significant for you enough for you that you dislike the game more. Totally understandable. It's also the shortest game in the franchise. I can understand that's an issue for some people, but I still feel like it's the most fun. It's the one I enjoy the most. It's the one I had the most fun playing. The one that mattered and meant the most to me personally. Um, and I kind of want to go in depth about my experience with the franchise as a whole. Um, so I think I first started playing with Dragon Age 2, and I think that was just before Inquisition was gonna come out. Like this was ages ago. I don't remember anything about it. I remember I didn't like playing a warrior, which I tried first, and I kind of tried out some of the games, and I never really got far, and I just kind of abandoned them all. Um, and then at a certain point, I just decided like I have all of them. I really just want to give them a try. I keep seeing stuff about it, and I want to give it like a really fair run and just see what I think about it. And I did. I started with Dragon Age Origins, like everybody does, and I made a mistake. I've had multiple attempts to try and play it. I think first I tried a human noble, I tried a mage, I tried a city elf, I've tried a bunch. I never tried playing a dwarf. I never really relate to dwarves in fantasy as much. That's just me personally. But I I tried a few different backgrounds, a few different classes, and eventually I landed on um, playing as a when I actually went in and said like I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna play through all of the games, and I'm gonna like you know import my saves as I go, try and roleplay my character. I went in with that mindset, and I started with Origins, and I think the biggest issue I had was one of the reasons I was very excited about it was the mindset of you can play any character you want. You can do anything you want to do. And I decided to play a Danish elf. I didn't really build my character beforehand as much. I just kind of did it based on the intro, which I feel is the best way to play Origins, especially if you're very new to it. Because like your introduction, the thing about Origins specifically is you have an introduction section that's unique based on your race and class. There were 6 in total in the game, 2 for dwarves. Then mages, whether human or elf, have 1 shared. Then there is 1 for humans, and then 2 others for elves. And you can kind of pick those. And it's like a short little narrative before you join like the main plot. And it's a good way to get to know your character, to understand kind of the background and the culture your character's from, and have a lot of fun. And I knew about Dragon Age 2. I also knew, in part because I looked it up, that um I had read it somewhere that the character of Meryl, who shows up in Dragon Age 2, who is a Danish elf, as shows up as a main character in the Danish elf origin. And that was the main reason why I picked that introduction, because it kind of tied into there. And I like Meryl. Meryl's super cute. One of my favorite characters from the games. Still is. So I played as a Danish elf, and I got into like a big thing I noticed about the games, and all the games have this. But in Origins, it kind of felt like they were ashamed of this. Um, like this aspect is super clear in Inquisition, and in Inquisition they treat this as a reward, and those are like specific prompt or specific like conversation prompts. So You have a specific option because of your class or because of your character race or your gender or anything else. And in Inquisition, it's very clear what those are. In Dragon Age 2, you don't specifically have those, but the prompts are based on who your companions are. And in Origins, they kind of felt, in one sense, they kind of felt um, like the game was a little bit ashamed of them, in a sense. But they also, especially in Ostagar, like the first section where you join the main plot, where all the backgrounds collide, um, they felt a really bit lazy playing as a Danish elf because you had you have the nice option, you have the sarcastic option, you have the mean option, and then you have the yes, I'm playing an elf or the yes, I'm playing a woman option. And they it felt a little bit odd. It drew attention to itself to me. And in Inquisition, they are very clear about that drawing attention, but they draw attention in a way that tells you like, yeah, this is a special option you've unlocked, rather than a yeah, we have this here in case you need it. And I felt like um it was quite noticeable to me at least. Um, and that kind of drained me because I felt like the options I had to play as a Danish elf were, in one part, somewhat inconsistent, and they kind of dropped off, and I was kind of causing myself to push myself into a box that the game didn't know how to properly accommodate. And I think that's just because I picked like the unluckiest option for that, I feel. Um, but like these special options you get as a Danish elf is to not really trust humans, is to be angry about unfair treatment of other elves. Those are options you get. Those are options you can call out. Um, but what you can't do, like at a certain point, that disappears. At a certain point, you are just this hero, this mythical figure, and it to me that transition was very jarring because my character at no point wanted to be there and just kind of got like pushed into you're the leader of this group now and you're going to help save the world. And like that transition was handled so much smoother in Inquisition. Um, but it felt like it didn't really make sense. And like that was just because of how I myself chose to roleplay my character, how I chose to um how I chose to build my story, and that felt so. It made me feel so disappointed in Dragon Age Origins. Um, and I felt like I ended up with this very weak character, but like I didn't feel like I did anything wrong to end up with that character. It's just that like the game was never capable of accommodating for what I was trying to do. And then I played Dragon Age 2, and I fucking loved it. It is so fucking great. Um, and I can go into like a bunch of tangents, and I will go in a bit into like some common critiques I've noticed that I not only disagree with super strongly, but I feel are really unwarranted and kind of weird, kind of odd. They strike me as very odd. I don't really understand them, and in some cases, I think they're just wrong. I'll go into those in a bit, but it felt so much stronger with like Hawk was like a very strong character of her own, um, and it felt like you were given a character who was in many ways like defined, and you could influence that character in kind of specific ways, kind of push her in certain directions. Um, and you don't really change her. It's not really like you change that much about. You can't really pick a backstory that's all given to you. Um, you can't like your history is given to you and all that. but you get to choose what it all means to you and your character. And I think that makes it so special to me. That made me love it so much. Um, and that just it felt so strong to me, especially compared to just before that playing Origins, where I ended up with this weak character that the game just wasn't capable of properly recognizing or accommodating. So I constantly had to compromise on what I wanted to do because I had to pick something that was within the game's programming. And it sucked because it's not how I wanted to play the game. Um, and it made 2 feel so much stronger for it. And then like you have Inquisition, which is a newer one, and it's kind of steered too far in some ways. It feels way too large at times. Inquisition, I genuinely feel would have been so much better if they spent more time punishing, if they had like less areas in the game, and spent the time they would have spent on making some of the other areas on punishing them instead. And like some of the areas can very easily be merged, right? They serve a very similar um, narrative purpose, and I feel like if you merge them, um, you can still it can still work. Like the biomes are similar enough in some cases as well that like this can just be one area. Cut down on the fetch quests, cut down on the put a few less collectibles in there, and just polish what's left, you know. And that way you have so much. That way I feel like it would be um, a little just kind of like where my enjoyment would lie more, just a little bit more polished, a little bit less open. Um, but again, that's subjective. Some people probably really enjoy the fact that it's so massive in scale. Um, but like in many ways, it feels like Dragon Age 2 kind of gets closest to hitting that perfect middle point in a lot of ways. And like it's not perfect. It's very clearly rushed. The writing has some issues. There are points. A very good moment example is like near the end. If you pick the mage path like I did, um, I won't go into specifics, but there is like one boss who seemingly, who like you can tell, has no reason to be there other than the writers wanted to have a boss here. And like later on, the writer actually said in like a Twitter thread um, that was a result of rush. They weren't capable of getting something better in time, and they just ended up with that kind of placeholder solution. Um, I wish there was more content. I wish, especially, I wanted to see more Meryl content because Meryl is just the best. She is the best character in all of Dragon Age. And no, I will not take answers on. I will not take questions on that. That is just like not debatable to me. Like I'm sorry. Um, no other options exist in my eyes. And the second best slot goes to Hawk as well, because Dragon Age 2 supremacy. Um, but yeah, I love Dragon Age 2 a lot more. I find the setting a lot more fun. Um, because it is one place, it feels a lot more consistent. It still runs it like it has like that time delay issue where you know, it recycles areas a lot. And I actually feel like Dragon Age Inquisition would have profited from that because in Inquisition you have like the war table and you're traveling all across the world. Like reuse some of those areas, give us like multiple mentions for like side quests. You know, just reuse them a lot more. That would have been the perfect game to reuse stuff because it tries to go for such a massive scale. Um, yeah, like the reusing of stuff. It doesn't get to me that much. I can live with it, but I know it's like a massive hang up for a lot of other people. I also feel like I would have profited from making that. How do I phrase this? I would have profited from making like the map a little bit better. So right now, if you go into like a cave system, it will show you like the default layout of the cave, but because you're going in there for a specific quest, certain doors will not open, which will slightly change the layout. Um, Cut out the inaccessible areas on the minimap. Don't let us see those. It will make navigation so much easier. And it will also kind of hide the fact that you're reusing the areas a little bit better. Um, I feel it would make it less obvious and less immediately stand out. Some people might even just think that they're randomly generated at that point. Um, so um, that's kind of my um, that's like a big limitation of the game. But like the characters are honestly the best characters are in Dragon Age 2. Um, I there are a few characters I dunk on a lot, specifically Conan, Solus, and Anders. But like especially in Dragon Age 2, like even though I hate Anders, he's still really well written, and I hate him because he's well written and because I just disagree with his character motivations. I disagree with the person. It's not that I think he's badly written. He's really well written, and I like the fact I hate him. It makes the game stand out so much more. It makes it a little bit more emotional. But like I love Meryl obviously. Isabella's great. Eveline's amazing, even though she's a cop. Varric is hilarious at times. Anders I kind of hate. Fenris I used to hate, but I really warmed up to. Um, Kind of over time, kind of getting to see his arc, kind of see his development, made me enjoy him as a character so much more, and I really appreciated that. Um, yeah, those are kind of like the characters that I like the most, that I had the most fun with. Um, just it's why um, I enjoy Dragon Age 2 so much. Like the characters are great. The story is honestly, I love the story so much. All the side quests tie into the main plot in some way, or most of them, not all of them, of course, but most do. Um, and it was just so much fun to me. Um, and like Dragon Age Inquisition is fun as well, but like because 2 resonated so much with me, it just meant so much more to me. Um, and I feel like it set a standard Inquisition couldn't hit. Like in every single run I have, the most hype moment in Inquisition, no matter how many times I've run the game by now, the best part of the game, every single time, is the exact moments that that I run into that you run into Hawk. The exact moment that you meet Hawk and she becomes part of your side quests. And like that's the moment that I really, really love the game. Um, and I'm always hyped for it. I'm always excited. I'm happy when it happens. And it it's just it's so much fun. I I love it so much. Every single time we get there. Um, and I feel like it really shows my kind of like my main um, mindset towards Inquisition. Like as fun as a game it is, it will never mean as much to me. And the same will go for Dragon Age Origins. Like they will never. Sorry, I'm like I dropped something and I'm trying to get it. My mother doesn't like me reaching down, because like my webcam can't see me anymore. Um, but like every single time in all of those games, like I Dragon Age 2 just personally hit me so hard. In part because of like the time I played it. None of the other games can ever compare. But also just honestly, it's a really good game, but like treat it by its own standards. You know, it is a bit, it's more linear. It's talking about one specific character that you control other than your own character you made. Um, it has a specific story it's trying to tell. Follow that story. Fall in love with it. Learn the characters. Fall in love with all the characters in it. Get to know all of them. See them shine. And the game becomes so much fun. I promise you. And like I can go on for hours about how wonderful to me um, Dragon Age 2 is. And like the other Dragon Age games just never quite compare. I think an Inquisition especially I always have early on in the game when you're dealing in the hinterlands. I feel like a lot of it becomes like very vague and very clearly very side questy. Um, so you need to like one of the first plot moments you have is you need to meet with the Chantry because like everybody is denouncing you, and if you meet with the Chantry and get them to not constantly denounce you, then maybe you're able to reach out to people for help dealing with like the world-ending situation. Um, but you can't go there yet because you need power, and you just get that power from doing side quests. Um, so if you just run around and do a bunch of side quests without any real purpose, no real guide, you just go into the map, look for camps, look for rifts, look for anything. Eventually, you have the power you need. You finish enough side quests. Now you can go continue the story. Um, and then you go and continue the story, and then a new situation arises that you need to build up power for. And I kind of have the advantage that because I just see side quests, I get distracted and I run off. Um, I don't really have that issue much because I have so much power banked, but at a certain point that I just never need to worry and I can just do any mission whenever I want. Um, but I do kind of run into the explanation sense of where I kind of run into the issue of um, the very much like the game is trying to get you to do all the side quests, which I like, but it doesn't really tie in much, and it's all very abstract, and it's just about leveling yourself up to a good point, getting enough of the proper points. And like there are multiple systems in the game that just exist to hand out more power. So um, it really, in my eyes, made the game a lot less tied together. It made it feel a lot more like I was there to play a video game and the story was there to facilitate it, rather than the game is trying to tell me a story and like the gameplay is there to make the story more interesting. Um, it very much felt reversed between the two games, between Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition. Origins kind of is its game on itself because in Origins, in many ways, the game is the story. Especially, I feel that becomes stronger looking back at it since it's a bit of an old game. Um, but I there is kind of like that difference between all of them. In Origins, the game is the story, um, and two, the gameplay is there to reinforce the story, and in Inquisition, the story is there to justify the gameplay. Um, and it's a pretty noticeable difference. Um, but like a massive issue, and again, I'm going on to multiple tangents because in one part, I'm trying to fill time, and also just because my brain is just constantly jumping around into different directions, and I have no control over myself. And that, because it's my name on the channel, that's all we're doing. Um, so, um, kind of still on the topic of Dragon Age, I've seen like a lot of people go into the critique where they have this really weird um idea of the story. So like Origins is like pretty dark, and I feel like at times it gets a little bit too edgy for edginess' sake. It feels like it's edgy because it wants to be edgy, not because I feel it achieves something, which in itself is fine, but room for improvement. Um, and I feel like, and I notice this a lot with fantasy games, where people will kind of like see that edginess and they just praise something for being edgy without like looking what is being done with that edginess, what's it telling in the story. They just want something to be dark and gritty. And I mean, it's not bad, or it's not directly horrible. But then when I look at reviews where Inquisition and Dragon Age 2 very directly want to tell some kind of a story, and Origins does too. Origins, in many ways, is a story of people coming together in dark times. Great story for that. Dragon Age 2 is about tragedy, like constantly befalling you and needing to kind of like keep yourself afloat in the middle of that chaos. And I love it for it. It's a really good tragedy. Um, and Inquisition is also, again, in a lot of ways, about like uniting people against a dangerous threat. Um, and also a lot more about like the politics within that and everything that comes with it. Um, and it's very clear like it's trying to tell a story with that, and a lot of people. I've seen a lot of reviews and such about it, and in the fandom where they just go, "Oh, they took away all the edginess, like the pandering and all of that bullshit," and it always gets so annoying because it's like there still are really dark themes in there. The game is still, acknowledging the horrors of the world. But just like the first game in the series, it's acknowledging that it's not all dark, it's not all horrible, it's not all death and destruction. The world can be beautiful too, and we can work together to make it beautiful and keep it wonderful together. And that's something that's worth fighting for. And I really love the games for that. And it gets really funny to me when, and this does kind of tie into political stuff, but whenever like philosophical political topics in a game come up, and you have that kind of hardcore fan that just instantly mentally shuts down and just seems to accept one narrative side of the story. And like it's usually just the side that they personally agreed with the most because it's the one that resonates the most with their own worldview. But so often is it just not. It, a lot of times it's like just look at it, just look at like the overall story that the narrative's trying to tell. That's clearly not it. Um, like I've seen someone point out about like Dragon Age. In Dragon Age Origins, there is this um, mages can be made what is called a tranquil, where they get a mark on their forehead and they are detached from their dreams and emotions, and it makes them unable to cast magic anymore. But it's done to protect them against like demon possession, because any mage can be possessed by a demon, and but a tranquil can't. So if they think you're not able to protect yourself properly, they make you tranquil. Um, and like it's really dark, but it kind of presents it as like this is a necessary evil. But we also kind of know like there is a political entity behind controlling the mages, keeping them in check. So it isn't a black and white situation, and that's made clear in Origins already. Like it's not as simple as the Templars want you to think it is. It's not as simple as, yeah, some mages are good, but it's important that they're kept under control. There is room to question that. There is room to question if the Templars' methods are right, if they're justified, if that is the right way forward. And the later games kind of expand on that, and they kind of go further, and they kind of like show the side effects of things and show the failings of the Templars more directly. Because the games are about the clash between the mages and the Templars, and it shows the failings of the mages too. Dragon Age 2, in Origins, you heard people talk about blood magic and how horrible it is, and it isn't until Dragon Age 2 that you really get to see like the effects blood magic can have on people and like how horrifying it is, and you see it for yourself. And that's kind of like what Dragon Age 2 and Inquisition are about a bit more. They handle that topic more. That conflict is to the forefront. Um, and it feels, you know, um, it is like a very great situation. And I side with the mages because of my own political views. And I recognize that my own philosophical and political bias makes me interpret the situation in a certain way where I have a certain side in the situation. But what just gets to me is, the capital G gamers who got super mad when the Templars were shown to have faults. Like the character, like the faction that existed to be the police over a minority identity. When they got questioned, so many capital G gamers got mad about it. And they like began quoting the Templars on why they're important, and they're like, "Oh yeah, the game's going back on this. Tranquility is like a necessary evil," and all of those kind of talking points. And I'm like, who are you getting that information from? You're getting that information from a in-universe, clearly shown to be biased party, and you're quoting it as objective fact. Like, what the fuck? And it always it's so hilarious for me to see like the kind of central and the more right-leaning groups. Thank you for the headpads capture. Kind of like those groups, seeing them go, just like they're trying to justify like why the text is actually following their beliefs. Um, and that's technically its own topic. Um, why did Microsoft pop off? What's the convo? I'm mostly talking specifically about Dragon Age 2 up to now, but now I'm kind of going into just media in general. Um, you're kind of like you'll pick it up, I feel. Um, but yeah, kind of like media in general and people reading their own views into it is so hilarious because there are examples of mainstream media where we know the political bias that went into making it, in some cases, directly because the creators told us, and people will still try and bend over backwards in order to say why it's actually following their beliefs. Um, a wonderful example is Starship Troopers. So, Starship Troopers, the book, was written by somebody who was like very pro military and pro authoritarian. Um, and it got adapted into a movie by Paul Verhoeven, who is a Dutch filmmaker actually who worked in America. Um, and he directly said like he made the movie about fascist propaganda, but by presenting it as fascist propaganda. So it's very parody based, and it's directly parodying itself. And you will still see people who push for authoritarian like policies and beliefs reference Starship Troopers completely unironically, and the parts they're referencing are the parts that are meant to satirize their own beliefs, and it is so hilarious to see. Um, and I just love seeing how much they try and like bend themselves around to justify it. Um, and like similarly with The Matrix is a good example where there are a lot of queer elements into the movie, that at the time they couldn't say as explicitly, because back then, if you are very explicit about gay topics in your works, it's getting censored and you're not allowed to work in Hollywood anymore. Like that's just how it worked at the time. Um, so a lot of movies about more LGBT topics had to rely heavily on, um, they kind of had to keep it hidden, had to rely heavily on hiding what they're actually talking about, steeping everything in allegory. And you can notice that a lot within The Matrix, now that the creators, the Wachowski sisters, came out as trans. It's written by two trans women. And while they weren't out as trans women at the time that the movie came out, um, you know, they knew themselves they were trans. Or I think one of them knew and another figured it out later, if I remember correctly. That isn't like directly relevant, but like they were aware of trans topics and it clearly had relevance to them. And when you look back at the movies, it so clearly like has affected the story, and it makes it so hilarious that insecure transphobic men use Keanu Reeves and specifically his stuff as work as Neo as like their symbol. It's so hilarious. And it gets even more hilarious that a lot of these kind of like alpha male groups, like the alpha male, the sigma male, that kind of toxic man sphere culture. Like, of course, not all men are toxic, but like, you know the group I'm talking about, the group who are like, believe they're better because they're men. Um, that group. Um, they look up to Keanu Reeves so much, and a lot of people do. Personally, I don't as much, but I can see why other people do. And they look up to him so much, and like they spout so much transphobic stuff. And Keanu Reeves used to date Jamie Clayton, a trans actress, and that's so hilarious to me because like at the times, if they would have said those transphobic views to Keanu Reeves's face, he would just be like, I don't know exactly his reaction, but he would disagree heavily. Presumably be a little bit mad as well that they would try and rope him into those views. Um, and there's just a part of me that finds it so hilarious, just how people will bend themselves through in order to justify their personal beliefs being like the norm or whatever. Um, and it's so hilarious to me. You can kind of see the same in a lot of new shows and movies coming out. Because like this has been going on in shows for a while. Not sure if um especially if we're looking at LGBT representation, especially sapphic representation. Those who don't know, sapphic is term historically used for like lesbian and bisexual women, can also include non-binary people, but basically just traditionally refers to people who are very feminine in their gender and presentation, who are attracted to people who are traditionally very feminine. So primarily, it includes lesbians and bisexual women. Um, like that's kind of the primary part of the group. In case you don't know the term, but like the primary representation of sapphic people and of women on women relationships in modern media has been through cartoons. In large part because a lot of people, a lot of people work in that kind of art, um, and also kind of just in general because a big issue, especially with FF represent like women on women representation, is it gets fetishized a lot, especially in live action. And one wonderful thing about like it being brought up a lot in cartoons is that they can just heavily avoid that fetishization. Um, and it's great. Like the shows themselves are, even if you like remove all the sapphic stuff, those are really good shows. And in general, they've been pushing a lot for just in general pushing forward towards like gay and trans acceptance. Um, but like that kind of wave started with The Legend of Korra a few years ago now, and like people got so outraged at the suggestion at the ending that Korra and Asami, like the two female leads, ended up getting together with each other rather than both ending up with a guy. Um, and like so many people got angry at that. And like they had to censor the ending for it. Originally, they were gonna make the characters kiss, but Nickelodeon said no, and they had to. All they could really do was just kind of give each other a look that suggested stuff, and that got people so angry. Um, and it's kind of hilarious to me how people will keep pushing for like a narrative like, oh, this is completely ruining the art and everything, and they make such good shows. Like the gay shows, gay cartoons are honestly like really good creative cartoons because they question the norm so much. Um, they tend to go against the norms of the genre a lot, and it's makes for such creative storytelling. And like similarly, when Shira, the new Shira reboot came out, like they just revealed one shot of the character, um, and they revealed like one shot of the main character, looking at her from the front in armor, and like she didn't have super pronounced breasts. And people got so angry about it, called it censorship and woke pandering. And like, if you actually watch the show, like all female characters are drawn with like a chest. Um, it just like depends on the angle, just like people in real life. When you're looking at the front at a person, depending on the clothes, it doesn't always stand out that much. Welcome to real life. Welcome to art. It's not always that clear. Um, and that apparently annoyed a lot of people. Um, and like so much pandering about it, or so much like complaining about it, and like people crying like, oh, it's never gonna be good because it's too SJW, and it's such a fucking good show. Um, and what was great about Shira is it gave us a canon kiss between the main uh, sapphic couple. Canonically, both Catra and Adora are lesbians, and they are in love with each other. And we got to see them kiss on screen, and that was like a massive step towards representation. And it was honestly like it was a massive step. It was super good to see. Um, yeah, and like exactly, like as you're saying in chat, just because a character is like it's a children's show, right? And like they were complaining that the women didn't have very visible breasts in a children's show, and like not even because like some characters did, but like one specific character did, and then people were complaining about it. And it's like I'm going on about like the fact that I had like a kiss and everything. Like everything in it is like super PG. You know, like we see characters in cartoons kissing all the time. If you can see, that's kind of like my mantra with these topics. Like if you can see like a man and a woman doing it on screen, two women or two men should be able to do it as well. Um, but like it's a children's show, and people are complaining about the fact that the character doesn't look sexy enough, and it's gonna indoctrinate young people into not wanting to be feminine enough. Young girls aren't gonna wanna be women anymore, and just it's such a weird mindset. Um, but like the show ended up being amazing. It's a great show. Um, and like similarly, and yeah, exactly. Like just let the children be children, and as well, like in real life, you know, you have straight couples, You have women and women couples. You have men and men couples in the world. Some are bi, um, um, some are bi, some are straight, some are gay, some are trans. You just have those people out in the world. Children are gonna see it, um, and there's nothing wrong with people seeing that in the media. But and the limits are the same for everyone here. Um, yeah, exactly. Children over the years will learn about gay people, and I don't think it's ever really any big issue when it's in media. I think similarly, the Arthur show had like a gay wedding in it, um, and it was so hilarious how angry people got over it. It got banned in a few states for not being religious enough, um, because it had like a wedding in it between um, two men, and like so many people got angry about that. And every single time something like that happens, every single time people complain about media being like too woke and progressive, I just laugh. Um, it's hilarious. And yeah, that is like an example where like religion shouldn't be able to block what shows up on TV, like you're saying in chat. That's breaking freedom of speech. That's favoring the speech of one group over another. Um, and Similarly, actually, like the show Steven Universe is also a good example because it also had it was very it was also like a great push for LGBT rights or like LGBT representation in the show. But then it kind of had to be indirect about it. I don't know that much about the show, but it kind of had to be indirect in some ways. But there was one couple who were canonically lesbians and who got married at one point. Um, and the way that the German dub handled like censoring the fact they were gay, because up until a few years ago, gay marriage was still illegal in Germany, for those who don't know. Um, but the way they kind of censored the fact that there was like two women in a relationship was by dubbing one of the characters by a man. So they changed the genders around, and like I get it, it's like a cartoon. You technically can make those changes in itself, whatever. But it backfired so hard when that character that they chose to voice by a man in order to make the couple straight showed up to the wedding in this like white wedding dress. And like moments like that are just what I live for. Moments like that when like the homophobic people just get owned, I just like I live for it. I love it so much. And like I hope we will end up moving forward with this. And it there is like a point where it like gets annoying because they get so militant about it, you know? If you enjoy a ship of a um of a gay couple in a show, even if whether it's canonical or not, like the homophobes will make it a point to find it and to hate on it and to just emphasize how much they hate it. Um, and there was like a point where it can get really daunting and just really difficult to deal with. But just remember, they are such a small group that they have to like actively resort to attacking everyone just to even stand out a tiny amount. And even with like all of their strength, even when they make it a point to be as aggressive as they can, they still make up a minority of voices. So yeah, I feel like you're putting in chat. I think there are some like decency limits. I feel, um, and I think those decency limits also kind of tie into when they air, because like that's a thing on a good example. Most countries have this. There is like a certain timestamp when certain amount types of shows are allowed to be aired. So kind of during the day, early in the day and such. You can't blood and such on TV, for example. Um, some swearing and such, or some more raunchy content can only be done in the evening. Um, and like full on, a lot of NSFW content is just not allowed until midnight in most countries, or a lot of countries that I know at least. And like those limitations make a lot of sense. It's not directly censoring in my eyes, it's just like managing an open access channel. Um, but it's like there are always limits of like there are certain laws, um, and there are certain laws that limit things, of course. I don't think illegal content should be shown. I don't think dangerous content should be shown. You know, um, like if somebody for a song or for a show writes a song about doing something that will result if you try it and you getting hurt, that's a good reason to not allow it to be shown. That's a very good reason to censor that, or false advertising in an ad. Um, and most of those things are illegal in most countries. Um, and I think aside from that, it shouldn't need to be censored much. I feel as well like there is like a big distinction that we should make there though between is it censored by like authorities, so like a government or the studio, or is it being censored by the people? You know, let's say that um, a show comes out and just everybody hates it. It shouldn't be banned. It shouldn't be censored. But because everybody hates it, it doesn't get aired anymore because nobody wants to air it. And that's like a very neutral thing. But if some people hate it and therefore it completely gets banned by the government, that would be, that would be too much. That shouldn't really be a step. Um, and but yeah, aside from that, like it is really good to see how quite a lot of media is trying to push for diversity, and like it's not always done great. Um, Often the issue is like the big studios don't want to do it. Like as much as some people will complain about like woke Disney and stuff, Disney itself is not woke at all. Like Disney itself only cares about profits, and they will at times let some LGBT representation slide into their. Um, they will allow that to exist in their properties because they think it can make some money. Um, it makes for good PR, right? It makes them seem like they aren't homophobic. Um, and then as soon as they want to release it overseas, they just instantly cut those scenes out. So all of the LGBT friendly scenes in their shows need to be short enough moments that it can be removed for a if it gets shipped to countries where it's illegal. And I get so annoyed about that. Um, but like there are still a lot of creators who work for those corporations who really care about representation and who really care about making good content. A lot of directors working for big corporations, whether it's for games or for shows or for movies, a lot of them still want to make really good entertainment. It's just the corporations that will go, no, the only thing we care about is the income for it. So we end up with this kind of like a mangled situation where, we have the directors and the creators and all the actors and everyone who wanted to make something truly special. And then like they are just so clearly shown, so clearly they're like limited in like the things they can do and things they are forced to do just because the corporation figured it would make them more money. You have to put multiple outfits in the superhero movie, and the character needs to constantly change outfits so that we can sell more toys. Um, you need to have this other character show up at one point and make a scene for that, so that we can tie the shows together and we can make like promo footage for it. And yeah, a lot of this is the MCU. Like it's a really good example of that issue. Um, we also see it a little bit in Star Wars. I would say it's not quite as strong there, but still has that same effect where they're forced to do certain things because it benefits the corporation. But yeah, that's just kind of me ranting about media and shows and stuff. And it's so fun when it's hilarious to me when a show just takes like the most tame stance possible on a subject, and it just instantly gets so many people just so angry about the fact that they didn't reinforce their hatred. It's so hilarious to me. Like bigots can I live off the tears and the sadness of bigots. But yeah, that was about media. Um, not sure. Are there any like questions or topics and such from chat as well? Gonna take a moment to drink. Um, but yeah, um, let's move on to the next topic. So about the upcoming week in streaming, like I mentioned earlier, I'm the Trisscasts are not going to be super long, usually like probably around 2 hours. Also depending on like how many topics I can find, how I feel personally, and then after that I'm going to play a game. Um, so after I'm done with this topic, I'm going to cut the stream, boot up the game, and then restart the stream again so that it's in two separate VODs. So that if people just want to watch the Trisscast, it's one VOD, and if people just want to watch the game, it's one VOD, and you don't have to like cut between. I figured that was the best solution for it. Um, in part because it also makes exporting the VOD a little bit easier. Um, but yeah, the next week, in terms of streams, I've been keeping up the stream with, starting and stopping the recording for certain sections. So those will be, I will likely edit over them and put those on YouTube separately. I will try and make sure I'm up to date on publishing and writing descriptions and putting in playlists and all that stuff for the art stream and the road building stream. Um, I will reveal in a little bit the game that I will play tonight and every Friday from now. And it's a game I think a lot of people will enjoy watching. Um, it's a really fun game. I'm gonna enjoy playing it at least. I hope. Um, I've had fun with the game before, so now I just need to hope it's fun to play on stream. Um, then on Monday we're gonna have another art stream. One idea that we've had is we kind of realized that we can use some of the already existing art assets that we have for the stream. Um, we can use some of those for the we can use those for panels um, and our description on Twitch, and we're gonna use that to make some more special, make the description a bit better, make panels, and that will probably what we're gonna make during Monday stream. Um, and then after that, I think Rosa wants to make, because like we have these, as you can kind of see in the background, we have these butterflies representing a member of the system each. There's one for me, there's one for Rosa, there's one for Hawk now, and there's one for Chloe. And we kind of made them for people as people wanted to stream within the system. But Rosa's just going to go and try and make one for everyone. everybody at least that's like public within the stream within the system. Not everybody within the system wants to be known outside it, which is fair. Um, but we're gonna make stuff for everyone and just also just try and see if we can tie that into stuff more. We wanna kind of use that for a little bit more branding. Um, we might even just make some art specific, like specifically based on that premise, and just kind of play around with it, have fun. Um, so it's going to be the focus for the art streams for a little while. Those will still be every Monday. Um, Rose is having a blast with them when they manage to actually stream. It isn't always easy for them. In days where they can't, I will just pick up and play the mystery game I'm gonna announce in a bit. Um, but that's gonna be great. I kind of had for a very long time I've been like, how would I get proper panels? I have no idea how to do it. I'm stuck. And then I just had a realization of like, I have existing art assets. We have these assets. We can use them. We can make something pretty with them. And it's already like it ties into our branding, into how people recognize us from outside. We we already have all of this stuff. It doesn't have to be that difficult. Um, and kind of hitting that realization was made me go like, right, this is the next real big thing we're gonna work on. So that's gonna be Monday. It's gonna be lots of fun, I hope. Um, and then on Thursday, I'm gonna get back with another road building stream. I feel like the last road building stream went great. I want to try and do more. Um, I had a blast doing it last, and I think now that I have a bit of a sense of like how it's supposed to work, how I'm gonna do it, I can, um, I can do it more. I can work with it. I have a method, and I can be a little bit less lost at the beginning. So hopefully it's gonna go great. Um, be there. I personally am very excited for it. I really like world building. I really like doing it. Um, and then Friday is just gonna be me playing games. I kind of needed to relax as well. Um, and hopefully you're all gonna enjoy the game. So just to kind of just gonna boot the game up now, and you will probably some of you will probably recognize what game it is from the sound. Um, but I hopefully it will be something that people will enjoy. Um, but it is I'm just gonna transition over to show you all. It's Hollow Knight. It's way too loud on my end. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. This is a little bit better. Might make it a little bit louder for stream. Um, but yeah, we're gonna play Hollow Knight. I'm gonna turn off the stream in a little bit, and I'm gonna be back, and then we're gonna like properly play the game. If I tab out, does the music go away? No, it does not. Good to know. Um, but yeah, that's what we're gonna play in a little bit. Hope people are excited for it. I myself, I really love the game. I've played it before on Switch, and I got it for Steam on the summer sale. So I'm very hyped to do it on stream now. I'm somewhat familiar with the game, but I'm also gonna kind of use this to try and go for some challenges I couldn't do on the Switch. Try and get good at the game. Um, and I think it's gonna be fun. Um, and I hope to see you all there in a few minutes. Now, this has been a very short episode of the Trisscast. Apologies for that. But it's I um I kind of I don't want to stretch these out any longer than I think is natural. So I talked about some topics I really care about today. I think I have some good clips to upload, and I'm also just very excited to get started with Hollow Knight. So that's what we're gonna do in a bit. Um, Everybody, hang tight for that. Um, I'm just gonna switch off the stream in a little bit. Then I'm gonna um, and I'll be back in just a few minutes, and we're gonna get started. So, whoops, that's not the sound I expected to hear. Um, Hope to see you all very soon. Be right back. Good night.